Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to night number 5 of the Midnight Madness series. My name is Nick Robbins. I'll be bringing you the action this evening. My normal broadcast partner, Mr. Scott Bargeloff, trying his hands behind the wheel this evening. Going to be trying to race into this street stock race tonight here at Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio. One of the more famous half-mile dirt tracks in all of the country. We've got, once again, the dirt street stock's going to be on the racetrack this evening. Open practice going on right now, and then we're going to take the top 24 cars out of qualifying this evening, put them straight into a 45-lap main event this evening. Once again, in Midnight Madness competition, our caution laps do count, so there is a possibility of this race ending under caution. I don't suspect that to happen because here, once again, we get VLR on the racetrack. You've got some of the best in iRacing's Dirt Racing series, so we are going to have a good time tonight. Some facts about some stats coming up for you for the Midnight Madness series. Of course, our point leader right now, Mr. Shad Prescott in the 41 machine, 76 points total. He's 10 points ahead of Mr. Dylan Fox, who is 5 points ahead of Jeremy Caprone. Kendall Tucker in 4th spot with 55 points, and Dylan Wilson rounding out the top 5 with 53. Dylan Wilson was our first winner in the Midnight Madness series way back on December the 13th, and that was coming in modifieds at Lanier Speedway. So big win there for Dylan, kicking things off here. Austin Simmelman was credited with the win for the second feature in the series. That was back on the 20th of December. Of course, I say credited because we had a glitch that night. Pace truck did not come out, and we finished under caution that evening. So everyone awarded 5 points for the race. Austin Simmelman credited with the win on that one. The next race on the 3rd of January at Lima Land, we had the Dirt Midgets coming out, and the win went to your point leader, Mr. Shad Prescott. And then we took a week off. Actually, we took a week off between the sprint car race and the midget race. We had the Winter Dirt Derby, of course, that win in the trucks at Lanier National Speedway, going to Jeremy Caprone. And then the race last week on the 10th of January in late models at Knoxville Raceway went to Kendall Tucker. So super late models going to Kendall Tucker last week. Tonight we've got our 5th race of the series. We've got 2 to go after this evening. I think this is the 6th race tonight. Oh, 5th race. 5th race this evening. We'll have 3 to go after this race. We should be nearing the end of our 20-minute practice session here. Actually, a little bit less than 2 minutes left to go. The quick car on the racetrack right now is Zane Yost in the 39 machine. Zane got a lap time so far of 19.641. That's 19.641. Zane once again driving the 39 machine. Ricky Sanders, second quick in the 35 car with a 19.659. Howard Weaver, third quick. Trevor Thorne, fourth. Kevin Deadman, fifth quick right now. Remember, Deadman was the winner of the Gobbler 100 back in November. Picked up $500 for his efforts, and that was also a dirt street stock race, so we know that Deadman can wheel these street stocks. Lewis Hewitt right now in the 6th position. Lucas Chowning 7th. Jordan Casey 8th. Shad Prescott, your point leader, 9th right now. And Blake Garrett rounds out the top 10. Of course, once again, we're going to move on to single car qualifying here in about a minute or so, and we'll take the top 24 out of single car qualifying, put them directly into tonight's main event. Once again, my regular racing co-anchor here, Mr. Scott Bargeloff, behind the wheel this evening. Scott,
Good evening, everybody.
Well, hey, Scott, right now on the standings in pre-race qualifying, Scott, you're 23rd. How do you feel about your chances qualifying into this thing tonight?
I don't have a shot in hell, Nicholas.
I think it's going to be a little bit easier than that, Scott. You got 43 cars signed in tonight. 23rd right now. We take, of course, the top 24 I think the all-important thing in qualifying, Scott, going to be to keep it fast and keep it off the wall. Of course, I think here at Eldora, that is easier said than done. The quick line, definitely, I would say, going to be right up around the outside of this place. If you can keep it on the cushion and keep it off the concrete, you're going to be able to get around this place quickly tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to end our pre-race practice, and we're going to move on in here into single car qualifying. 43 street stocks signed in to qualify tonight. 24 of them going to be moving on into the feature, and then 19 cars going to be putting it on the trailer, so they say, and we'll get set to go for a 45 lap main event here with the Dirt Street Stocks this evening at Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio. Some of the guys on the racetrack. Yes, sir. What you got, Scott?
Hey, Nicholas, keep your eye on qualifying on how many people are banging into the wall. That's gonna be one of the deciding things tonight, because you can get right up to that thing, but the fastest line almost has you pinging off of it. So the guys that can stay just a centimeter off that thing are going to be the ones that are near the top of the boards.
Well, and absolutely, in a twist here at Eldora, if you tag the wall in qualifying, it negates that lap time. So you're really threading the needle to get around this place quickly and keep it legal, keep it in the bounds. So they say right now the quick time around this racetrack belongs to Mr. Kevin Dedman, and I got to think that Kevin is going to be one of the favorites to take the win here this evening. Several qualifying times ticking off here, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like about 23 cars right now have officially qualified. Evan Dedman still atop the point standings. Oh, there goes Lewis Hewitt straight to the top of the charts with a 19.653. 19.653 seconds is atop the charts right now. Our slowest qualifier, well, our slowest transfer right now is the 68 of Ronald Piles. Ronald with a 20.386. Actually, that's already not the case. Joe Murphy now at the bottom of the transfer pile with a 20.281.
Well, that was fun, Nicholas.
Well, Scott, looks like we missed the mark a little bit tonight. 20.552. Slowest qualifying lap right now that transfers belongs to Ryder Cantillo with a 20.174. Did you tag the wall, Scott?
Yes, I tagged the wall in the first lap. The second lap, I tried to stay off of the wall, and it made me a lot slower.
Well, I mean, there's that line you were talking about, man, and you're right. You're exactly right. The fastest way around this place, and it seems to be this way in just about every class of car here at Eldora, is right up around the wall, especially once the middle starts to slick off. There's nothing in the way of grip right through the middle of this racetrack. And Scott, a valiant effort tonight. You're braver than I am, man.
Yeah, I wanted to see how I could stack up with these guys. These guys are, I mean, they're the best in the world, in my opinion. So I don't feel terrible, but I don't feel fantastic.
You're talking about my everyday. It could be better, but it could definitely be worse. Let's see here. We've got just a few more moments in single car qualifying. It looks like 39 drivers have officially timed in. We're waiting on 5 cars. So 44 cars signed in tonight, Scott. And we see this a lot with these street stock races. What do you think makes this car so popular?
I think they're pretty simple to drive, Nicholas. The biggest thing is keeping your momentum up. These cars don't have a lot of horsepower, it feels like, under the foot. They're kind of hard to spin out. They bunch up real easily. It's a fun car, and it's a good intro level car for people that are just getting into iRacing.
And it's something I would say, and we've talked about this before in just our regular racing here in iRacing. It's something you can bounce this car off the wall for 30 or 40 laps, and it's still going to be there at the end. She's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a little dinged up, but it's still going to make these corners just as good as it did on lap number 1. Or everybody else on the racetrack is going to be just as dinged up as you are, so they've got the same damage you do. And I do think that helps maybe a beginner driver who is trying to learn car control, is trying to learn throttle control. Something with a little bit more durability helps out at the beginning, I think.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. I really feel like the fast laps here are ones where you do slap the wall in the corners, and it has minimal to no effect on the balance of the race car.
Well, we are ticking down. We are actually out of single car qualifying right now. Our 24-car field has been set. Scott, we are going to get them lined up here on the front stretch and get set to go for 45 laps. I don't really think that's a long race for these cars, Scott. The typical official races are, what, 30?
Yeah, 30 laps for the official race.
So 45, a race and a half, but really it's not that much more in the grand scheme of things. Real quick, we want to thank all of you for joining us for night number 5 of the Midnight Madness series with Team VLR. We are streaming live at several different locations. Race on Texas Facebook, I do believe Team VLR's Facebook page. We want to thank Charles Wooten and the team at the Virtual Racing Network for helping us out. Scott, Charles has been nothing but gracious to you and I, and really Race on Texas in general, trying to help us get started in this virtual racing world. Give us all the pro tips, and we can't thank Charles enough for what he does for us. And I am excited to be on board with him and having him run cameras for us this evening. Scott, as much as I wanted to see you make this race, it is good to have you in the booth, sir, and we are getting set here to go racing. Scott, what do you think is going to be key to keeping it out front this evening?
Well, first I'd like to thank all the people sending me messages on Facebook right now. Yes, I am aware I suck. Thank you very much for your input and feedback. I think the key to this race tonight is going to be keeping your car off the wall. Howard Weaver's going to be tough. He's always fast. He turned his first lap in the practice server prior to the race starting. Tommy Rowe set up a practice server. Howard came out first lap 19.673. I mean, that to me is astonishing. I've run 10,000 laps in this car around this track and never been that fast.
It is pretty impressive what these guys can do just right out of the box, and I think that speaks not only to the amount of time and dedication that they put into this, but also just a certain amount of skill. You know, I've got several laps around this racetrack. I wouldn't say as nearly as many as you do, or really as many as any of these drivers on the racetrack, but I've got a lot of laps around this place in this car, and I'm like you, I am nowhere near that fast. I don't know that I've been, you know, anywhere close to a 19.6 at this racetrack in this street stock, and I think it just speaks to the talent of the drivers in this field tonight.
Yeah, their ability to control the car on a slick is really what separates them from the average iRacer.
100%. In this place, Scott, slick, I think, is a bit of an understatement for what we're going to see here tonight. We got a lot of cars on this racetrack. We're going to be running quite a few laps. We've already ran several on this place, and I think she's going to dry out quite a bit, and the fast line is going to be right up around the outside of this racetrack. And Howard Weaver starting on the outside of the front row. You've got to think, Scott, that there's a little bit of an advantage on the outside.
Yeah, definitely. That's the preferred line. That's where you want to be. There is a little bit of moisture in the middle of turn 1 and 2 that may come into play, but we'll see what happens as the race unfolds.
How about Lewis Hewitt's got a good run for Lewis in the 3 car tonight on the inside, grabbing that pole. Quick qualifier. Looks like we're about to go green, Scott. Here we go. Out of turn number 4 down the front stretch, we roll into turn number 1. Hewitt going to stick to the bottom, Scott. The cars are already bunched up. And there's a slider, slides up, takes the nose off the 07 car. Scott, Lewis Hewitt ain't here to play.
No, definitely not, Nick, and that's what you got to do is get him early.
That is absolutely correct, Scott. You've got to be aggressive on this place because you can get freight trained around the outside real easy. If you get stuck down on the bottom and you see some cars already beating and banging on the outside retaining wall, you can lose a lot of spots through the middle of this racetrack, Scott.
Yeah, you just can't get them back as quick as you can lose them, that's for sure.
And it really kills the momentum. You'll see a lot of guys, and I know you and I have talked about this before, you can really put a good slider through the bottom of 3 and 4. There's a good exit off the bottom of 4, but you're still in a car with this little horsepower. You're still driving up the racetrack, and you've already killed your momentum as we've already got a yellow flag coming out. Scott, looks like it might be... Looks like the 52 of Brad, or the 26, excuse me, of Brad Doss. Involved in the caution. Got Greg Thorne in the 21 car on pit road. So our first caution flag of the race coming out, Scott. We're going to have, once again, caution laps will count in the Midnight Madness race here. But how about Lewis Hewitt, Scott? Like we talked about, very aggressive on the start, started on the inside, and Lewis has been around long enough in this iRacing that he knows that he was at a bit of a disadvantage on the inside. He had to be aggressive and make the move early, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and that's where you really separate those guys that are top notch. They come out and take it. There's no give, there's no take. It's I mean, we grab it, and that's how you got to be fast.
Yeah, this racetrack and this class of car especially is a no holds barred, take no prisoner, no quarter given kind of thing. It's very gladiatorial. It's very much either him or me as we get set to go back. Green flag here in just a second. We are bunched up behind the iRacing.com official pace truck. Lewis Hewitt and the TTL Esport back number 3 out in front right now. Howard Weaver in second spot, sport that Gobbler 100 paint scheme there, Scott. That was an interesting race, one of the biggest that we've seen so far in our very brief iRacing careers. And your Gobbler 100 winner right now, Kevin Dedman, Scott, fourth spot. You have got to think that Kevin may be a favorite to win here.
Yeah, and restarting on that top line is a big advantage. Lewis was able to control the bottom and keep the lead there for a second, but we'll see what happens.
Howard Weaver being very aggressive, Scott. They're going to get together. The slide job was not enough, Scott. We are 4 wide, and that is going to cause some problems right there down the backstretch. And we are going to get another yellow, and that was Dylan Wilson getting the short end of that stick in the D1RT Racing number 80 machine.
I got to say, I'm really impressed with how Lewis Hewitt is able to get the restart from the inside line. That's twice in a row now he's been able to take advantage of that, which is pretty impressive.
It is really good because, you know, we talk about controlling the tempo of these races, and you use that term, and I really enjoy it. I like it a lot. And the guy on the outside here is definitely going to be the guy who's conducting this race, so to speak, being in charge of that tempo. And like you said, it's really a testament to the skill, and it's quite impressive actually to see that Hewitt can get the jump off the bottom on these restarts and still be able to get to the top side and be in control of this race by the time we get to turn number 1. Because really, Scott, that's your window from turn 4 to turn 1. That's when you have to make your move, and that's when you have to determine where you're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick.
So, folks, once again, we are under caution. Of course, that was some good 4-wide action there, but all good things must come to an end, and I figured that it was going to happen down the back chute like that. Kevin Dedman was up there, unfortunately. The 80 car, I believe that's Dylan Wilson. Yeah, and Wilson right now on pit road, and unfortunately, he's going to be falling to the back of the pack here. Dylan actually was our first Midnight Madness winner back on December 13th, picking up the win in the UMP Modified at Lanier National Speedway. So Dylan, no slouch when it comes to driving these dirt cars, and it is tough to see him out of the race so early. Once again, that 4-wide racing coming in to bite you. Here comes Hewitt on the inside of turn number 4 again. Lewis Hewitt, Scott. Ooh, it's a lot closer this time, as Howard Weaver able to keep the car right up alongside the 3 machines we come off of turn number 2, but it's still Hewitt once again, Scott, getting out into the front.
And it's a log jam directly behind them, 3 wide.
Yeah, they're 3, 4, almost 5 wide back there through turns 3 and 4 right now. Scott, I saw Howard Weaver maybe getting up into the wall there on that initial lap, and that may have slowed him down just enough to allow Hewitt to get by, because the lead at the start-finish line, Scott, was 0.178 seconds. And here comes Weaver on the inside. Hewitt bouncing off the outside retaining wall, Scott.
Yeah, if Weaver can make that move work, he's going to be fast. It's just a matter of getting that inside momentum. Every time I would turn that lap, I would lose it. So, I mean, he's better than I.
It definitely killed a little bit of the momentum on the 07 machine through the middle of the racetrack. We had about a 0.3 of a second lead that time by 13 laps complete already, ladies and gentlemen, and 32 to go for your front runner Lewis Hewitt in the 3 machine right now. I tell you what, you hit the wall like that too many times, Scott, and Howard Weaver going to get by you in a hurry.
Yeah, there's a couple of places on this racetrack where you can definitely ping that wall and not lose any sort of forward drive, which is pretty surprising because I don't really feel like that in other racetracks on iRacing.
Well, and I don't know, you look at Hewitt rolling through the corners. The berm on this racetrack is taller than I think anywhere else in iRacing. You look at that berm, and it's literally 3/4 of the way up the wall through the middle of the corners. And I don't know if that, especially right here through the apex, helps the car get a little bit of bite even off the wall. I'm not really sure how that works, but I think the berm here definitely plays a role, and the shape of it anyway plays a role in the ability of these drivers to basically drive these cars off of the wall. We had Kevin Dedman there in 3rd spot looking to the inside of Howard Weaver for a little bit. Scott, we've got roughly 29 laps to go in this race. You got to think if you're somebody like Kevin Dedman who knows you're good in a stock car, you have got to be getting ready to make your move and come up towards the front.
Yeah, you definitely want to be running second. If the next caution comes out, that's going to be probably your last opportunity to make a good move to grab this win.
Yeah, and Dedman now coming under fire from Jordan Casey in the 442. The 06 Motorsports team right now sitting in the 4th position, and he's got his hands full with the mellow yellow 47 of Lucas Chowning. The top 5, Scott, started to pull away from the rest of the field just a little bit. That lead now for your top car, Lewis Hewitt, though almost 0.8 of a second. Scott, on a racetrack like this, in a car like this, that is an eternity.
Yeah, and if you look at the top 8 lap times, Nick, they're all almost identical. So everybody's kind of hammered down around the top, and you got what you got at this point.
And they're not really that much slower than we saw in qualifying just a little bit ago, Scott. Your best lap of the race, a 19.653, and the last lap from your leader, a 19.730. So less than 1/10 of a second, and I would say that's within, I'll call it the margin of error. If you hit your marks every lap, you should be around that 19.6 mark. If you mess up, you get one little bobbles. We've got a caution flag coming out, and that is going to be for Bailey Hipp in the 43. Actually, a really good-looking race car there for Bailey.
Yeah, there are some phenomenal paint jobs out there in this field. I've got to give props to all the guys out there that are in the sim painting world. You guys make these cars look awesome, and y'all deserve some serious respect for that.
Yeah, they do. Some really good stuff here, Scott. And here's an interesting development. We are going to single file restart. Scott, what does this do to your mentality if you're Kevin Dedman? You got a single file restart. How does your strategy change here?
I mean, you got to get Weaver. That's the first thing he's got to knock off his task list before he can even think about winning this race, is you've got to get by Weaver and set yourself up to be able to get a good restart after that. I mean, it's going to take 2 cautions for somebody behind Weaver, barring catastrophe, to win this race.
Does that make it a little bit easier if it's a single file restart for Kevin Dedman, or is it just that much more difficult?
I mean, if it was a double file restart, he'd be inside row 2, and I personally don't want to be on the bottom here on a restart, but again, I don't know if those guys can make the car work up off the bottom. To me, your best hope right now is that Lewis Hewitt keeps slapping the wall in the middle of 2 and you get a good run on him, because otherwise I don't think anybody's catching him.
Yeah, the lead at one point was almost 0.8 of a second there, Scott. So you may very well be right. We're about halfway through this race right now, ladies and gentlemen. 23 laps complete. We're working lap number 24 right now. Once again, if you're tuning in with us this evening, thank you so much for tuning in to night number 5 of the VLR Midnight Madness series, brought to you at several different places this evening, courtesy of Mr. Charles Wooten and the Virtual Racing Network. Y'all check out his Facebook page. That is the Virtual Racing Network, as well as the YouTube channel. Subscribe there. You can check out most if not all of our replays from this series and a lot of other great racing action. Scott, we go back green, 24 laps complete, 21 to go. Oh, they're wadding them up behind Deadman right now. A couple of saves there. We're not going to get the caution that we wanted, but we may get it here soon as one smacks the wall in about 5th spot. That looks to be the 35 of Ricky Sanders there, hitting the wall hard off the 4.
In that last lap, Nick, Weaver was able to get to the bumper of Hewitt, but I don't know if he can stay there or get to him. I mean, getting to him and passing him are two very different things.
Absolutely true, Scott. We've talked about that before, and you're exactly right. Reeling someone in and passing them are two different things, and you are 100. Oh, and Hewitt smacks the wall through 1 and 2. Scott Weaver, keeping the car nice and straight, has got to be thinking about his move to the inside. It's going to take coming off of that quick line to make this move, Scott. You're going to have to either at least look down maybe a lane off the wall or throw that slider coming into 3.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a spot there where you need to lift at the entrance of the corner, and I think Hewitt is going in there so hard that he's tagging the edge of that wall, and it may open the door for Weaver if he can time it out right.
The lead last lap around, Scott, was less than 0.2 of a second, and here comes the 5 car of Kevin Deadman. Scott, he's within a car length and a half of Weaver coming down the front stretch. This could be a good 3-car battle for that top spot by the time this is all over.
And that's what Lewis Hewitt's probably praying for in his mirror, is to see a little bit of action between those two, because that'll allow him to gap them again.
Absolutely. As soon as you get two guys slicing and dicing, beating and banging on one another, and the gap is real close now, but you're exactly right. If Kevin Deadman and Howard Weaver tangle into one another, then Lewis can make a few more mistakes. He'll be able to, just lay the key on the front desk, hopefully, and check out on the rest of the field. Deadman bobbling there that time through 1 and 2, and Jordan Casey. I mean, the top 4 cars, Scott, are less than a second away from one another. They're about 0.8 spread out over the racetrack right now. That's how close this racing action is. The lead from Lewis Hewitt back to Howard Weaver is less than 0.3 right now. Coming back into turn number 3, we have got 31 laps complete this time around and 14 to go. If you're Howard Weaver, Scott, can you force the issue, or do you just have to wait?
I mean, you can force the issue. You can get to that back bumper and maybe give him a tap, but I don't know how he's going to feel about you after the race for doing that. Weaver with the slider now, Nick.
Absolutely. It's just as you were talking about it, there's a slider on the bottom, and you've really got to sacrifice all your speed to do that, Scott. Weaver tags the outside wall. Here comes Hewitt with a slider into turns 1 and 2. These cars don't quite want a move. Just as I say, these cars don't quite work like maybe a modified or a late model. Weaver slices him up, crosses Hewitt over, coming off of turn number 2, going to throw another slider. This is getting good, Scott. Kevin Deadman now making it a 3, almost a 4-car battle there with Casey in the 442.
Yeah, and you can see on the timing screen, Nick, that's 0.2 a lap that those guys are losing Dyson like that.
Yeah, your top 2 cars now, Scott, actually top 3 cars in the 22nd bracket last time around. Jordan Casey, a 19.871. How about this? The quickest car on the racetrack that lap was Trevor Thorne in 7th with a 19.682. These top 5 cars now, ladies and gentlemen, you can just about throw a blanket over them as we've got 35 laps complete this time by Scott. 10 laps to go, and now Ricky Sanders and Jordan Casey get into one another for 4th and 5th, and that's going to kill the momentum for the 442 machine. And Weaver is now your race leader. Howard Weaver out front has won that slide job battle with Lewis Hewitt. It was fun while it lasted, but now Hewitt has a mountain to climb with 35 thousandths of a second actually behind, or 35 hundredths of a second, behind Howard Weaver there. But the lead is gone. We get a yellow for Blake Garrett in the 257. Thought that's going to make things interesting. We're going to have maybe, 5 laps left here once the green flag comes back out. You're Lewis Hewitt right now, Scott. You're sitting in 2nd spot. You're going to have 5 laps to go. Do you just throw haymakers from the get-go, or do you wait till maybe 2 to go?
Now, I think you got to throw the haymaker very early, turn 1, and then you throw that slider. I mean, Lewis Hewitt's found a way to make those stick tonight, so maybe that's what you need. And at this point, you also start to throw care out the window about what your competitor really thinks about that move that you just made.
Yeah, you're not here to make friends. You're not here to win friends and influence people. You're here to win races and grab that checkered flag. And, Lewis led about half this race, actually probably more than half, at the beginning there, so he wants to be back out front. He's been slighted, starting on the pole, taking the lead, led about, I don't know, probably 30 laps of this race anyway, and now he's sitting in second spot to one of the best, arguably one of the best iRacers in the whole of iRacing. So, it's a tall order this evening. If you look at the stats, if you look at the licenses, Weaver with a WC 488 license, and Lewis Hewitt, one of the few B-class drivers in the race, with a B252. Arguably, statistically, Weaver the better race car driver. If you're Hewitt, does that make you want the win even more?
Well, Lewis Hewitt's from Adelaide, Australia, Nick. I think those Australian guys are awesome. They're hungry. They're ready to race, and Lewis Hewitt's coming to win. And it is probably 5:30 Friday afternoon where Lewis lives.
So he's getting ready to start the weekend off with a bang, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Well, the pace truck is in, ladies and gentlemen. 39 complete, going to be 40 this time by. Lewis Hewitt has 5 laps to get up front and take that lead. That was a bad restart, Scott, because Kevin Dedman going to throw a slider for second. Hewitt into the wall, loses 1 spot, and is in danger of losing 2.
Yeah, you can really lose grip on the restarts quickly here. Once you smash the throttle, it's anybody's guess at what's going to happen sometimes.
Something is not right in the cockpit of the 3 machine, Scott. Lewis went from 2nd to 6th in 1 lap, and that is going to give Howard Weaver an almost second advantage over Kevin Dedman in second spot. Now remember, Dedman was your Gobbler 100 winner back in November. We're going to come around to 42 complete, 3 to go this time by, and Dedman has lost almost 2/10 in that lap. So I would say, Scott, barring catastrophe, this one going to go to the Tennessee driver, Mr. Howard Weaver, in the 07 machine. Unless something real serious happens, I don't. And Scott, there's a yellow. I'm going to say that's going to seal it right there.
Yeah, I believe it will, Nick, on lap 43 of 45. That should wrap it up.
Caution there coming out for Zane Yost. Or Yost. Zane, I'm sorry if I got it wrong. And I think that that is going to seal the deal for the 07 machine. Mr. Howard Weaver going to get the win here tonight in night number 5 of Team VLR's Midnight Madness. We'll, of course, roll around here for these last couple of laps and make it official. Get it in the books. Kevin Dedman right now looks like he'll be scored in 2nd. Jordan Casey will be 3rd. Ricky Sanders 4th. Keith Hackney will be 5th. Looks like Lewis Hewitt, Scott, slips all the way back to 11th. So a very, very bad last couple of laps there for the 3 machine. I can't help but think maybe an equipment malfunction or something going wrong there for Lewis, because that was instantaneous and significant there on that last restart. And that makes lap 45 right there. It is official. Howard Weaver going to grab the win here in the 5th night of the VLR Midnight Madness Series. Taking the win of the Dirt Street Stock here at Eldora Speedway. Give us just a second. We'll get Howard down here into the press box, get a quick interview with him. As Weaver going to take the win on night number 5.
I'm sure Howard won't pass up the opportunity for a victory lane interview.
Oh no, Howard loves these things. Get him up here real quick. Howard Weaver, Nick Robbins in the press box, brother. You got a copy?
This is Kendall Tucker, but I'll fill in for Howard this week.
Well, Kendall, good to have you. Speaking on behalf of Mr. Weaver, of Howard there, talk about the, first of all, congratulations on the win. Tell Howard that we said congratulations. And tell me what you think was going through Howard's mind there on that last restart when you'd gotten around Lewis, but you knew he was hungry for the win, and we had about 5 laps to go. Walk me through what Howard was going through there.
Well, Nick, and all the times I've raced Howard, it's pretty clear there's not a whole lot going on in his head at any time. So it's hard really to think of what he was thinking. But I'm sure he was It looked like the first run he was slower than Lewis, and then later there was a caution and found some speed again. And uh, I can tell you, I was thinking that there was no way to pass here because the track was so one laned up top. So figured it was going to take a door job to win that one.
Now, Kendall, is that the way this racetrack normally goes? And why, if so, why do you think that is? This track maybe more than any other, I think, goes that way in iRacing.
Yeah, it used to be pretty good, and then they, with the cushion, made it.
It goes one lane right around the outside of the racetrack, and it doesn't. It's like you said. Sometimes it seems to take a door job to get around somebody. Scott
Yeah.
Margloff, you got anything for Kendall this evening?
Hey, I lost my mic for a second. No, I was gonna say that it got worse whenever they put the cushion in, and it's been getting a little better sometimes, but not really. I mean, but hey, I think we made it pretty exciting up there. The three of us, it looked pretty cool from my view.
Yeah, there
For
was
the
some
side jobs.
fantastic sliders, Kendall, there on laps 32, 33, and 34. Now, each time that Hewitt would cross you over, did you just stay in it, or did you have to check up, or how does that? Walk me through the process of Howard Weaver's slides and crossovers.
Well, I know Howard better than he knows himself. Basically, he had to definitely get on the brakes for those side jobs. You may have seen Howard door Hewitt early in the race because Howard has no good sensories on when a slide job's going to clear or not. So he just drove it in there, and he had to learn from that mistake later. And Lewis threw a few like that too, and then Howard had to get on the brakes pretty hard and cross under, but that just brought Kevin Deadman, the $500 Gobbler 100 winner, that brought him into the mix. So from there, it was on from there, but it seemed pretty clean considering what track they were having to deal with, you know.
Now
Yeah,
I
Kendall,
know.
I was really impressed with the three of you there with that close quarters racing action, especially once Deadman got there into the mix. Howard and Lewis there had to really not only fight off one another, but really worry about Kevin right there behind them.
Yeah, Kevin's really fast in the street stocks, especially like I said, he won the Gobbler, but uh, the race I figured was probably going to be won in qualifying. Uh, Howard's back now. This is Howard speaking now. He was sitting beside me. Anyway, the race I figured was going to be won in qualifying because I knew it was clear that it was going to be top side. So the first lap in qualifying, I ran like a 19 point low five or something that would have been pole, but I just barely touched the wall out of turn two. So the second lap, I was scared to death and was trying to be a little safer because if I hit the wall again, even slightly, it invalidates your lap. So uh, I wouldn't even have made the show. So I just got lucky to get my lap in. But yeah, I mean, Deadman and Lewis Hewitt, they're both really good in street stocks, and these are the only car that I'm any good at anymore. So that's why I stayed up late for it.
Hey, Howard, talk a little bit about Oculus Rift. Now, Howard Weaver runs Oculus Rift as his, instead of a monitor, folks, he uses a system called Oculus Rift. It's a virtual reality system. Talk about how that is compared to, say, running off of a monitor.
To me, it's a lot different. It's a lot better because, well, I mean, on a monitor, what you don't realize that if you've never used anything but a monitor, it just feels kind of like a game, like any other like shooter game or whatever kids play. But with the VR, it's like you're 3D, transported into the car. You look around and all you see is the car, the pits, and the track. Uh, the fireworks going off on the back straightaway. You can kind of like peer out your car and catch those. So I mean, it's just like real life except way worse graphics, and I think it helps. I think it helps a lot to run against the wall and stuff better without hitting it. Even though I didn't really give a good example of that tonight, but you can kind of look out the right front corner of your eye and see where you need to be, halfway through the turn, where as a monitor, you're just staring at a flat image. So it's hard to explain without, people actually trying it, but it's pretty cool to me.
Well, Howard, I want to thank you and Kendall for the joint interview there, and as always, it's good to see you.
He said you're welcome, Nick.
Oh, thank you, Kendall.
No.
I appreciate it. It's always good to see you out there on the racetrack doing well, and it's got to feel good to get a win tonight.
Yeah, it does. I became known for being good at late models and modifieds on iRacing, and I don't even know the last time I won a race in those, and the last 2 wins I have at VLR are in a street stock and a sprint car. So clearly someone has switched spots with me, whether it's Kendall or someone else, but I just don't have it anymore. So these are good to get, even if it's at midnight. Blake Garrett in the comments, need to tone it down a notch, buddy. Sorry.
Well, Howard, you've said it all tonight. I think, Nick Robbins, we can quote that. Virtual reality, it's just like real life, but way worse graphics.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think we can end on that one. Howard, as always, it's good to talk to you. Congrats once again on the win this evening. Who do you want to thank on the race car?
Well, I got to thank Dylan Wilson. He tried to help me with my wheel settings because my wheel was shaking like super violently under the pace laps and stuff, and we didn't get it fixed in time, so that was a handful to deal with. But then I just got to thank VLR and VRN and Race on Texas. You guys are awesome, and we can't wait for the spring fling. Me and Kendall are really excited.
Now, Howard, if somebody wants to get involved with the sponsorship of the
let's
Spring
keep it
Fling,
going. Go ahead.
how would they get in touch with you?
Through Facebook, or they can message me on Facebook, or they could try Howard at teamvlr.com if that email address works half the time. Just get a hold of me. It's going to be a big race, and you guys, I think, are hopefully at least somewhat going to be a part of it. But I'm not going to race next week in this series, but if anyone wants to get on with the spring fling, we'll do that. I can't say much about it, but it's going to be cool. It isn't Midnight Madness if the post-race interview isn't 10 minutes or more long.
Right.
Thank you, David Heilman.
With several appearances from all different people. Kevin Dedman, how was your car tonight? Finished up second. All right, these guys got to go probably. The view count's going up though.
Nah, we can stay at this all night, Howard.
I got to work at some point, but that's fine. This is fun.
Yeah,
Hey, Charles.
Howard was going.
Well, Dedman messaged me before the race something about how me and him suck now, so this could be like a redeeming race for us. And I was like, let's go get 1-2, and there we are.
Shake and bake, baby.
And
you can't script this.
I thought it was going to be a good 3-car battle there for the top, Kevin. You were right there behind Howard and Lewis. Did you think you had a shot?
Yeah, man. I mean, Lewis and Howard were both, I think, just a tick faster than me. But I knew when they started battling, I thought if they got together, I could slip up in there and get them. And it was fun. I mean, it was one lane, but it was a good battle between us three for the top spot.
Real quick before the next question, hey, check out Dirty Grass Soul on Facebook. Kevin Dedman, really good singer. He's really excited about. He's got something. He's going to do something cool. He's going to make a theme song for VLR. At least I hope he is, especially since I announced it just now in front of
Absolutely.
everybody.
I've got to
He's
do it
excited.
now. Yeah, absolutely. Y'all know the Hank Jr. Monday night football intro. It's going to be like that, but like 10 times better. It's going to be epic. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we're excited. Charles, get ready.
Well,
That'll
Nick
be
Robbins,
epic
big
if
shoes
it's-
to fill there.
Yeah, if it's going to be 10 times better than Bo Cephas, good luck.
Oh, man. It's going to be good. I'm telling you.
It's going to have a lot of topless guys.
Oh, I can't wait.
We're going to make tens of dollars off of it. I'm telling you.
Tens of dollars. All right. Well, we got some very ambitious street stock drivers here, Scott. Howard, Kevin, thanks so much for joining us in the press box. Once again, congrats on the 1-2 finish. Next week, we've got, what is next week? Looks like 410 wingless sprints at Kokomo, I think.
Yeah, that's what he said. But yeah, Nick, tens of dollars is about, that's big dreaming whenever you're just a rough old street stock driver like me and Deadman. I mean, that's the best we can dream for here.
Hey, never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from, Weaver. Always remember your roots, man.
That's where I got to go back. It's the only place I can still compete.
Well, Kevin Deadman, anybody you'd like to thank on your car tonight?
Yeah, man. Just thank the guys at VLR for putting this deal on, and obviously Howard already gave the shout out, but my band Dirty Grass Soul, and that's about it on the team. Appreciate the guys putting the event on. It's always a blast to run these things.
Well, folks, once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight for night number 5 of the Midnight Madness series. Don't forget, next Thursday night at 10:50 Central Standard Time, we'll go live from Kokomo Speedway with the 410 wingless sprints. You don't want to miss it. Once again, congrats to Howard Weaver and Kevin Deadman for getting the 1-2 finish this evening. On behalf of Mr. Charles Wooten, Scott Bargloff, the rest of the team at VLR, VRN, and Race on Texas, my name's Nick Robbins, and we'll see you next week.
This copyrighted broadcast may not be used in any form without the authorized written consent of Virtual Racing Network. VRN would like to thank all of our fans for your support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.